Hello everyone, welcome to the October 19th, 2014 edition of the Astrology News Report. I'm your intrepid host, Ron Berger. So let's take a look at the upcoming planetary patterns and predictions, what's in store in the heavens for October 19th to October 26th and beyond. On Saturday, October 18th, Mars entered Sagittarius, where it will be until November 27th. By itself, Mars in Sagittarius is not such a bad thing. Sagittarius is a positive sign, enthusiastic, gregarious, truthful, generous, and so on. Mars is the planet of action, and usually functions well in this sign, for those of us here on Earth. But the position of Mars in Sagittarius this time sets up a particularly problematic energy pattern in the zodiac, which puts a lot of pressure on the sign Pisces. Pisces already has problems due to the presence of Uranus and Ketu transiting here, a combination that tends to produce crisis. Mars sends out a fourth house square aspect, which introduces more pressure onto Pisces and Uranus-Ketu. Thus, a setup for an especially stressful 6 weeks for this part of the zodiac. You'll want to keep careful watch on the part of your life represented by the house in your natal chart that contains Pisces. Okay, so now I'll go through the zodiac and analyze the potential effects for each of the rising signs. I am a Vedic astrologer, so I am using the sidereal zodiac. In other words, the zodiac you can see by looking up at the night sky. If you are only familiar with your Western astrology chart, then you need to subtract 24 degrees to get to the sidereal positions. For instance, if you are Cancer, 12 degrees rising, in Western astrology, then you would be 18 degrees Gemini rising in Vedic astrology. You can also use your moon sign or your sun sign as the reference point, but using the rising sign generally gives the most accuracy. Starting off with Aries rising, Mars transiting in Sagittarius is in your 9th house, the house of good fortune, religion, father, guru, meritorious deeds, and long-distance travel. Mars is an action planet, so going on a journey would be appropriate. But Mars is also the planet of combat, not so good for relationship with father or guru. From its position in your 9th house, Mars is influencing Uranus and Ketu transiting in your 12th house, the house of the subconscious, expense, loss, and the unexpected. This is a combination that at the minimum produces some anxiety, and at its worst would bring about an unexpected loss or something requiring sacrifice on your part. For Taurus rising people, Mars is transiting in your 8th house, the house of partners' wealth, financial arrangements with others, secret actions, chronic problems, and humiliation. The planet of action is unwelcome in this part of the chart. Careful of giving in to impulse for an indulgence that turns out to be regrettable. Financial involvements with others could become a source of contention. The Uranus-Ketu transit has been causing problems in your 11th house of friends and associates and the elder sibling. For 6 weeks, Mars will add more negativity to these relationships. Profits and rewards, another 11th house matter, could also suffer. Mars will be transiting in the 7th house for Gemini rising charts, the house of one-on-one relationships, in other words, spouse or significant other, or business partner or clients, and deals in distant places. Mars is generally problematic for relationships when it transits through the 7th house. There's more likelihood for aggression, impatience, angry outbursts, and even accidents. Mars's energy gets further expression by aspecting into your 10th house, where its stimulation of the Uranus-Ketu combination could cause an unpleasant explosion through your professional dealings, or in your business, or a fight with your boss, or problems in his life. If you are a Cancer rising person, Mars will be transiting through your 6th house, affecting your health, employment situation, relationship with coworkers, and ability to solve problems. A natural malefic planet like Mars, transiting through the 6th house, is considered useful for defeating enemies, overcoming obstacles, and solving problems. But it can also bring on a sudden health issue. Mars is the planet of infections, inflammations, injury, and accident. Through its aspect on Uranus and Ketu, which are transiting in your 9th house, Mars could create a sudden downturn in your luck, or a falling out with father or guru. For Leo rising people, Mars transits in your 5th house, therefore affecting your relationship with your lover or your child. Mars is proactive, especially in Sagittarius, and in this position could bring about a sudden romance. But generally, the planet of combat is not so good for the smooth operation of this part of your life. Mars likes fast results, and in the 5th house of creativity might bring a flash of inspiration for some new project. The square aspect of Mars will be hitting Uranus and Ketu transiting in your 8th house, the house of chronic problems, finances with others, and secret activities. Mars will be transiting in the 4th house for Virgo charts. The house of contentment and domestic harmony is not a favorable place for aggressive Mars. Furthermore, Mars is throwing its square aspect onto the 7th house of relationship and marriage, which is already suffering from the disruptive energy of Uranus and Ketu. So October 18th to November 27th will be a challenging time period in the lives of the Virgos. Libra rising people will experience Mars affecting their 3rd house. This is considered to be a favorable transit. It's the planet of action in the house of self-efforts, the do-it planet in the house of skills and talents. Best to have some projects that need doing. Mars will be sending its square aspect into your 6th house, the house of struggle, enemies, health, and the job. The 6th house is already stressed by Uranus and Ketu transiting there. Mars's challenging aspect makes your health situation more likely to be a problem. Your job and or your relationships with coworkers will be more stressful than usual. For a Scorpio rising chart, Mars will transit the 2nd house of personal finances, materiality, family, and speech. Mars, the planet of combat, in the 2nd house indicates harsh speech. Mars is not a friendly planet for the house of family. Mars may be proactive for new developments in earning money. The square aspect will impact your 5th house of romance, investment, and children. These areas of your life, already in crisis due to the presence of Uranus and Ketu, will be even more likely to go through upset. If you are a Sagittarius rising person, the Mars transit will affect you very directly by transiting your 1st house of self. This is a very energizing transit. Mars likes physical actions, so best to have projects to do or some competition like sports would be a good use of it. Mars is also combative when challenged by others, so best to stick with people who already agree with you. Through its square aspect, the energy of aggressive Mars will be adding stress to your fourth house of home life, which is already experiencing upheaval due to the Uranus-Ketu transit, and your relationship with your mother, or she herself, will suffer. Capricorn rising people will experience Mars transiting in the 12th house, the house of hidden things, the unknown, which includes unknown people, unknown places, as well as the subconscious. Mars is the planet of attack, and when transiting in the 12th house indicates somebody making a move against you from behind your back. Even if there is no physical threat, Mars here will produce fear of the potential. In other words, anxiety. Nor is Mars in the 12th house conducive to another meaning of this part of the chart, meditation. This problematical energy will also find expression through your 3rd house, via your everyday actions, your desires, and your efforts, which are already distorted by the Uranus-Ketu transit. If you are Aquarius rising, the Mars transit will affect your 11th house, the house of goals and ambitions. The action planet in this part of your life is useful for pushing you towards more achievements. It may help your involvement in another 11th house area, group activities. But the square aspect of Mars, along with the transit of Uranus and Ketu, is upsetting to your 2nd house of family and putting personal finances under stress as well. And lastly, Pisces rising people will have Mars transiting in their 10th house, the house of actions in community, career, and professional activities. Mars gives you energy to work at your business, but since this is also the house of authorities, in other words, your boss, you have to be careful of coming into conflict with your superiors. The square aspect will be putting stress on your 1st house, that is, your sense of identity will be challenged, and or your body itself. And this is happening along with the energy of Uranus and Ketu, which could bring about some sort of personal crisis. All right, a lot of this sounded pretty negative, but the idea is to be forewarned of the energy pattern, and remember it's only 6 weeks. It's all over on November 27th. Before we go, a couple more items for this week. Thursday, October 23rd, will be the new moon at 6 degrees Libra. This new moon will be exactly conjunct Venus, and it's in Venus's sign Libra. Therefore, the energy of the month is flavored by Venus, the planet of romance, pleasures, harmony, and agreement. Problem is, due to its proximity with the Sun, Venus is fully combust, in other words, burnt up. Therefore, Venus's usually benefic energy won't be of much help this month. And one last thing, next Saturday, October 25th, is the final day of Mercury retrograde, the planet of communications, information, speech and writing, business transactions, and equipment, which has been going backwards since October 4th, will return to normal forward motion in the zodiac. It takes several days for Mercury to get back up to its normal speed, so the retrograde effects may linger for another week. Okay, that'll do it. Thanks for visiting astrologynewsreport.com. I'll be posting updates during the week on Twitter at Astro News Report.